Hi everyone, this is Violet and I'm going to walk you through how I edit this picture. This image is straight out of the camera. It was a raw file, so when I first opened the picture it wasn't a JPEG, it was opened in Photoshop as a raw, so I did just a little bit of color adjustment. I didn't show that part because not everybody shoots in RAW. I really didn't make many changes in the RAW option, so I'll just skip that part. This is basically how the picture looked. Kind of gray. It turned out really well. The sunlight was about 5:30 at night, so the sun was really pretty and glowy. But it's just kind of gray and it needed some like color adjusting, I think, and it just needed to be brightened up, maybe make that glow a little more extreme. So here's my first step. I usually go in and I go to image and then adjustments, and then I try brightness and contrast. And here I'm going to go ahead and just up the contrast a little bit on this one. It really doesn't need to be a whole lot because I'm going to do a few other adjustments that will enhance the contrast in the next steps, but I just want to get rid of that gray tone that the picture has. So I can play around here. This is giving it less contrast, making it more gray. This is giving it more of a black tone. So I'm thinking I'm going to land like about right there. Okay. So the next thing I do is usually when I have a picture straight out of the camera, I sharpen it. And there's two ways to sharpen the image. One is to have a sharpen tool like this, and you can grab your brush, choose your sharpen size. It's this icon right here, sharpen, and you can brush over the areas you want to sharpen. Or there are Photoshop actions. That's what I use. It's a recorded set of steps people have taken to achieve a look in their pictures. Some of you may be familiar with actions and some might not. I can go into more detail about that. If you have any questions after the video, just ask. But I use a sharpening action. So here in my actions palette, I click sharpen and I press play. This might take just a couple seconds. And then afterwards, it will show up as a top layer in my layers palette. So now I have my bottom layer, which is the original image, and now I have a second layer, which is the sharpened version of the picture. So if you zoom in, you can see this is with the sharpening and this is without. Not too extreme of a change, and some people might not even like the over sharpened look, but I think when the picture is zoomed backwards, the sharpened look looks a little bit better. It just makes things look more crisp. So that's usually my first change as far as actions goes. So I'm going to go ahead and merge these layers together. It helps when I just have one layer at a time when I'm working through different actions. And basically right now I'm going to go down and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different actions on this one picture. Second action I'm going to take is this one. I don't know how you guys all pronounce this, but I don't think I've ever pronounced it correctly. Vignette, I don't know. But I press play on that one. This darkens my edges. It brings more of a center contrast on your subject. Doesn't always work for every image, but in this one I think it works. It adds a lot more depth to your image. So you can see, just like with the sharpen tool, it's a second layer on top of my original layer, which is the image. You can turn the eye off and on to see your changes. It's pretty dark. It depends on what you like. You might like it that dark. I'm going to go ahead and turn it down just a little bit. I don't want it to be overpowering. So I think that's about right. And I'll go ahead and merge these layers together because I'm completely finished with that. The next step I'm going to take is applying my color correction, which is Envy by Florabella. So this action I purchased from Florabella, and it's called Envy, and it kind of gives you a brownish tone to your picture, which I'm not always a fan of, but the nice thing about these actions is that you can open up the layer and slightly adjust it. So right here in my layer I have this brown tone. I always remove it. I don't like the brown look. I like things to stay more true to the color in this case. So I've applied that. You can see that it has enhanced all of the colors to the extreme. Turn the eye on and off. Big change, huge change. Her eyes are much bluer, the flares are much brighter. Everything's, my husband's looking at me funny. Everything's a lot different. So I don't like it when it's that extreme. The nice thing about this is you can turn the opacity down. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. Just say, let's try 59%. It's a lot more realistic looking now. Not so, whoa, that looks kind of artificial. Just adds to the color. You can even turn it down a little bit more. I think I will. I like things to look magical but not artificial. So I think that's where I'll land with that action. Completely done with that. I'm not going to touch the envy action anymore, so I'm going to right click and merge my layers. Next step I'm going to do, and I do this with pictures that look like they were taken near sunset, is I apply my Foxy action. Foxy is by an action group called Red Leaf, another one that I got sometime a while back, and this just gives kind of an orange like tone to your picture. Again, overpowering like Envy was before, but it still gives the effect I want, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. I want more warmth to my image. Before it was pretty cool, as you can see now. It looked good before, but I want my image to look more sunsetty since I have this light effect going on right here. So I'm going to turn my Foxy back on, and I'm going to turn down even more, I think. Nothing overpowering, just a slight hint of warmth right here. Off, on. Okay, I'm done with Foxy. That's all the color correcting I'm going to do with the warmth in the sky. So that's finished. I'm going to merge those layers together. Okay, so far, sometimes I would just go ahead and save it like it is now because I'm pretty satisfied with it, but I kind of want to give this an even more fantasy look. And the girl that I was taking the pictures for, she likes the film style of pictures right now, the way that pictures are edited to give it a film look. So in doing this, I'm gonna go ahead and start painting on a slight hint of a light leak. And the way I do this is I take my brush tool, which you can find here, brush. I grab a large soft brush. So you can, do something like this or a little bit smaller. I'm going to go ahead and land on like 1500. Okay, and I'm going to have the light leak be pink because the sky is kind of like yellowy, and I think any other color might kind of look funny. So I want to do a pink glow around this sunset spot. So let me choose my color. I want kind of a light pink. I'm thinking that's good. My stomach is growling. I don't know if you guys can hear that on here, but it is. Okay, so right now I'm going to create a new layer. This is going to be my light leak layer. So now I have the original, and then now I have a blank layer that's over top of it. I know some of this might be confusing if you've never used Photoshop or you're not familiar with layers. But if you are familiar with layers, then this might come easy to you. So if you have questions after watching the video, just let me know. I take my soft brush, full opacity, and I brush over the areas that I want there to be kind of a pink tone, kind of where the sun is leaking through, maybe a little bit in our hair. And this is something that you kind of just play around with. It's never going to be one certain way. You can try turning the opacity down and just letting it a little bit more over here. Okay, looks really weird right now, I know. You make sure that this layer is selected, and then click this window here. And this gives you the different options that your layer will appear almost. You can choose soft light, hard light, vivid light, all of these different things. They all do completely different effects on your layer. But right now I'm going to try soft light. What that did was give a pink fog, as you can see, to the areas that I painted on, like right here, you know, over here by the sunlight. I'm pointing at my screen with my finger, and you guys can't see that, but my husband's face palming because he's listening to me, so he's probably thinking I'm silly. Okay, never mind. Anyway, so there's a lot of pink going on around the sunset area. It looks good like it is, but I still think it's a little too overpowering because I don't want it to look fake. So I'm going to turn that down a little bit. There we go. Now we have a pink fog instead of a brownish fog. See the change? It's all on personal, you know, preference here because I'm just kind of trying to go in the direction of what I think she would like. So I gave it a more girly fantasy feel, I guess you would say. So that is done. I'm going to go ahead and merge these layers. I'm satisfied with the cool color effect here. Something I'm going to show you really quick, but I'm not going to actually apply this image, is how to create kind of a different light leak effect. Go ahead and create a new layer. Turn your opacity all the way up. Make sure that's all the way up. You can use the same color again, or you can darken your color. Do the same thing. Paint on an area. And then I just want to show you what a different option can look like when you go up into your layers. Make sure this is selected. And you, instead of trying soft light like we did before, try pin light. That is essentially how you can get a light leak effect in Photoshop. This area right here. It's gives you that effect without actually taking something with a film camera, and it's again something that you have to completely play with. It's never going to look the same. It's, you know, hit or miss if it's going to look right with your image, but certain times it can look good. You can turn the opacity down on it like you did here. You can add more to your image by painting them in. That kind of thing, turning down the opacity, changing the colors. That doesn't really look good because I'm not really thinking I'm going to use that effect in this picture, but you can mess with the colors. Pin light is just the option I use when I want it to look like a harsh light leak. Soft light is what I do when I want it to be a foggy light leak. So anyways, I'm going to delete that because I don't like how that looks on the picture. And we have the other image back. Last step I'm going to take is this action, which I created, and these other actions, Envy and Foxy and the Sharpen, I purchased, but this one I created in Photoshop by recording a set of actions or a set of adjustments that I had previously made, and then after I've recorded them I can play them over and over and it will do the same thing to the same picture over and over, or different pictures or whatever. So this one's called Filmy. I'll press play on it. This is the last step I'll take. As you can see, this action is very harsh. I love the colors that I love the way it created a purpley effect, and I like how it worked with the sunlight, but her face looks very harsh as far as the new action was applied. So this action is a little bit different since I created it, and the way I have to turn the effect down to make it less intense is by clicking my bottom layer, right-clicking, and hitting duplicate layer. Press OK. Now hit the duplicated layer and select by pressing Shift click all the layers above that original. So the only one that's not selected is your original layer. Select all those and hit merge layers. This is the only part that gets really tricky because it's a homemade action, if you will, so I don't know, it's harder to adjust the opacity. But once you've done that, you'll have two layers. One is the intense action I just applied, and one's the original. Turn your opacity down on the top layer. and then things start to look more subtle. So you're getting that action effect, but it's not at its full strength. So here you see it with the new action, finished action applied. Here it is before. Not a huge change, but it's subtle enough to give it a film appearance. And you're done. So that's that image. Takes like this because I knew exactly what I was going to do. It didn't take me very long to get through this image. Sometimes I sit in front of an image for an hour before I know 100% what I'm doing with it because I go through so many different changes. I do things and then I undo it all and start all over again because I don't like what I've done. So it just gives you kind of a brief view into the editing process for me. But here is the before. And when you first see the before, it looks gray, but it also looks okay. Now that you've seen it afterwards, it's like, whoa, that looks completely gray once you've seen this. So it's all in personal preference. Some people don't like things that vibrant. Some people do. Some people like things darker. It's all up to you. This is just the steps I took to getting this picture to this picture. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully my voice doesn't sound too weird. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.